Welcome everybody, thanks for being here, all of you guys here and all of you watching. This is Chef Bravo for Bravo Plant-Based YouTube channel and BravoPB.com. Today's demonstration is Mexican food because we got Cinco de Mayo right around the corner. Alright, and just a very quick history lesson. Cinco de Mayo is not Mexican Independence Day, common belief. Independence Day for Mexico happens on September 15th. Okay, so I'm going to keep it very simple. I'm going to make a salsa for you, and then we're going to turn that into something else rather quickly. Okay?
You didn't say Cinco de Mayo, what that means.
Oh, Cinco de Mayo. Okay, so Cinco de Mayo is the remembering of a big battle between Mexican armies and the French army who was coming in as invaders. At that time, France really wanted to take control of Mexico because they had seen how much riches they had brought to the Spanish Empire. So they wanted a piece of that cake. They figured they sent 6,000 troops and that'd be enough to conquer a bunch of peasants and farmers. They figured that we have such a long history of great army battles and war heroes and all that, so 6,000 is all we need. But they did not heard of Ignacio Zaragoza, who whooped their butts. Yeah. So in Mexico, we remember it as a big sort of battle. In school, they make a mention. Everybody sort of honors the flag. That's it. There is no margaritas.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh.
Cinco de Mayo is more of an American holiday. Yeah. First thing I'd like to share with you is some chilies that I brought. So these are chile de árbol. These are chipotles, sorry. And these are guajillos, okay? Chilies change name from fresh to dry, okay? So if I'm not mistaken, these are serrano chilies, the green chilies that you see, okay? These are chipotles, are actually jalapenos in the fresh form, okay? These ones, I think, are poblanos. So this is actually no, these are not poblanos. The anchos are poblanos. So Poblano Chilies are the ones that you would use for like a chile relleno kind of thing. They changed name to anchos when they get dry. Okay. So you will never find a fresh chipotle. Okay. You can only find jalapenos and so on. So that's kind of a cool thing. Typically, the smaller, the hotter. Okay. The bigger they are, the less heats. That is not always, the golden rule. But as a general, 95% of the time, you go with the smaller ones if you want more heat, type of thing. All right. So we'll touch on that real quick, and then I'll use them as we go along here for our salsa. The first thing I'm gonna do is we're gonna make a salsa, right? Because actually no, we're gonna make some chips. That's the first thing we're gonna do. Now, as a whole food, plant-based kind of thing, and you go, darn, we can't use salt. How the heck do we make chips? Flavorful. So I have some organic corn tortillas for you here. Okay. I'm just gonna take one real quick, and I'm gonna cut it into strips. We're gonna make some tortilla soup as well, okay? So all I would do is take this tortilla and cut it into fine strips, okay? When you're watching the show, I go from here all the way to here, like that, so you're not just sitting there watching me cut the whole thing. All right. Once I have these all cut in strips, what I would do is...
I can see it's like a quarter of an inch.
Oh no, it's like you know, matchstick kind of thing. You can cut them wider if you like. They take a little bit longer to crisp up, and if you cut them wide, they're that much easier to start to get sort of soak up moisture. Okay, when they're really nice and thin, you can dry them out really good. So then all we do is I just put them in a baking tray, spread them out, and sort of into the oven, 350 degrees, until they're really nice and crunchy. Somewhere in the 10-ish minutes, you know, it could be somewhere to 5 to 10, depending on your oven. If you have a convection oven, you would do a 350. If you don't have a convection oven, it's 400. Okay? All right. But I said chips, so let's make some chips. So the problem with these tortillas is, you know, if we're not going to have salt, is we you know, they don't have much flavoring, right? And so here's something that I do in order to add some flavor. So I will take a lime and rub it on there. This acts as glue. So this is my glue right here.
You squeeze it a little bit while you rub it, or just?
Yeah, squeezing a little bit, yeah. So you see how, you know, a little bit of juice on there. So now that it's sort of wet, now I can sprinkle my cayenne pepper, cumin, garlic, onion, you know, whatever flavor you prefer. So I got one here with Cajun spice and the other one with cumin. Okay. So as you see, when I shake it, you know, the seasoning stays on there. So, see, nothing comes out. If, however, I do it on a dry side and I sprinkle that, then I shake it, you know, most of it comes off, or a lot of it comes off. So this is a way that I, you know, do chips and get some flavor onto them by simply using a lime. You could use a lemon, you know, just to get some moisture on there. And again, it's just glue. And then we put them in a sheet tray, spread them out, and boom, same, into the oven, 350 degrees convection, 400 non-convection, until they're really nice and crispy. And this is what we end up with. We got these really nice crunchy chips, there, okay, that have flavor on them. So I'm gonna get a bowl of chips here. So this is how you could make chips, again, nice and flavorful without using salt. Make sense? Okay. All right. So that's done out of the way. Now let's make some salsa to go with our chips. Sound good?
Yeah.
Okay. First thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna slice an onion for you. And this is a red onion. Just gonna cut the top and bottom. Cut it in half. I don't need the whole thing, I'm just gonna use half. Gonna peel the dry outer layers. Okay. And then just gonna do a quick dice. All right. Now I'll get my pot going here. And again, if you were here last week, we talked about the dry saute effect kind of thing. So I'm going to turn my pot on here, and I'm going to wait for it to warm up. Okay. I want to be able to sort of put my heat over it and feel sort of a radiating heat. Okay. To that, we're also going to use some chopped tomatoes. These are just some nice ripe Roma tomatoes, and some chopped garlic. Okay. Very simple, no sort of fancy ingredients, okay? think everybody's familiar with onions, tomatoes, and garlic, right? Okay. Just gonna kill about Roma tomatoes. You can also use large, slicer tomatoes. I just said they were Romas because that's what they were when I used them. Yes.
What kind of spice blend did you put on the tortilla?
On the tortillas, on one of them I used Cajun spice, and then the other one was cumin. Okay. But again, that could be granulated onion, granulated garlic. If you have a specific sort of spice mix you like, that'll work too. Yeah.
What's the brand of the tortilla?
The brand of the tortillas, it's called Organic Mi Rancho tortillas. Okay. Fairly clean. Ingredients are water, organic whole white corn, organic yellow corn, masa flour, and then the less than 2% of the guar gum and trace of lime. And by that they mean limestone, not lime. So these are probably the cleanest tortillas that I've found. A lot of them will have some sort of preservative, some bentonite, blah, 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 kind of thing. These don't. Okay. So, onions in. Garlic in. And then at this point, while the onions and garlic kind of get going, then I decide how spicy do I want my salsa. Okay. I really like these guajillo chilies because they have a lot of flavor. Okay, there's hardly any heat in these, so you're not going to make a spicy salsa with guajillo chilies, but they just have a lot of flavor. They're very aromatic. So I always like to do at least one of those, and then if I decide I want some heat into this, then I'll use some of the spicy ones. All right. So as the onions and garlic cook, and you start getting that browning effect going on in the pot, okay, before it turns into more of a burn, then I go ahead and add my chilies. This one doesn't have too many seeds, so it's good. And then these definitely have seeds, so I'll just pour those out. Ideally, you want to do this with gloves. Okay. Remind me not to go to the bathroom anytime soon. A friend of yours has done that? Okay. I'm sorry?
Does the moisture from the tomatoes?
The moisture from the tomatoes does deglaze the pan. Yeah, so all that stuff that got brown out at the bottom, they will come off. All right. Now this is sort of a cooked salsa kind of a thing. You could also go raw, and then just chop everything, including the chilies. You could go fresh chilies, if you wanted to go raw. With salsa, there is no rules, really. It could be green salsa, it could be red. And a lot of places you'll find green salsas, which are tomatillo based, and then they'll have a bunch of the red chilies chopped up through them. So it's sort of half and half. No rules when it comes to salsa.
You ever made prickly pear?
Prickly pear salsa? Yeah. Like a pico de gallo thing.
Yeah.
Pineapple salsa, even peach. Really spicy with like habaneros, or very mild with nothing at all. Did I see a hand up back there? Nope. Okay. All right. So this here is just the beginning of a salsa. Again, you decide how spicy you want it. You also decide as to how cooked you want it. The longer you cook it, the drier it's going to be. There's a sort of a fine balance between get enough flavor in there, you know, evaporating enough moisture, and then suddenly you'll have something that once you blend it, it's sort of pudding-like almost, which is not necessarily the best texture sometimes for salsa. It turns out that a lot of times you'll find that salsas, when they're hot, and temperature-wise, I mean, so if you cook them, once you serve them, they're hot, they tend to be spicier, and then they mellow out as the salsa itself cools down. Somebody explained to me that it has something to do with the fact that when it's hot, like the molecules sort of are more open type of thing. So, in our house, a lot of times it's very common, and other homes too, you know, or any time that Latin people are together, and then the salsa just came out of, you know, from the blender to the table, and it's really hot, and you'd be like, oh man, grandma, who pissed you off, kind of like that. So it's a common thing to hear. Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn it off. It could go a little bit longer, but I'll just show you what it looks like now. Okay, so we have these nice sort of stewed tomatoes in with it. The chilies. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and add the whole thing to the blender. With salsa, you also decide how smooth you want this. So some people like the chunky type salsa. Some people really like it blended. This can be a really good sort of base if you're going to make some enchiladas and you need, you know, a lot of that red liquidy kind of salsa. Okay, totally up to you as to how the texture of this. For me, I just like to see that the peppers are sort of chopped up, you know, no large pieces. And that's about it. Then, of course, I do want to finish this off with some cilantro.
Is that how they make snappy Tom?
Say again?
Is that how they make snappy Tom?
Snappy Tom?
Yeah, it's like the spicy V8.
Oh, kinda, you know, similar. Though they use, in a lot of those drinks, they'll use clamato juice, which is really, really loaded with sodium, by the way. All right, I don't add the cilantro in the beginning, okay? I just want it at the end so that I can just chop it up and see the green chunks in there. If you add it in the beginning and you really blend it up, you end up with a brown salsa because the green mixes with the red and your result is a brown salsa. Okay. That's it. See? Just see the little chunks there. Okay. So now we have some salsa to go with our chips, nice and crunchy. Kind of mild, you know, for me. I don't know about you guys, or some of you, this might be really hot. For some people, Stella in the kitchen, she needs a lot in order for it to like register. There are sometimes when we have meals and it's got a nice spice flavor to it. She's like, man, this has nothing. Okay. So, I'm gonna put the rest of the salsa back in the pot. And now, this is how we can go from a really quick salsa to a tortilla soup. So back in the pot, the salsa's there. At this point, we will add some vegetable broth. Okay. And I might even pour some of this in the blender so that I can pick up everything in here. All right. So now we have this sort of salsa broth type of thing, okay? So I'm gonna bring this up to a simmer. I would probably bring it to a simmer and cook it down for about at least 5 minutes, okay? Especially a batch this small, it doesn't need much. Obviously, if you're cooking a larger batch, it's gonna take a little bit longer to come up to that simmer, but I would cook it a little bit longer. So somewhere in the 5 to 10 minutes, you know, depending on what you like. I'll wait for that. In the meantime, you would bring these out of your oven. So now you have these really nice and crispy tortilla strips, which, by the way, these are really good salad toppings, okay, if you need some crunch. Okay, they're really nice and crunchy, okay. There's not, but you can certainly add some to it, just like the larger chips, okay. Traditionally, especially in the old days, tortilla soup would be made towards the end of the week, okay, because any tortillas that were left over from dinner throughout the week would never be thrown away. They would get saved, thrown in a tray, sort of in the oven for them to dry out. Okay, and then at the end of the week, you know, once all the tortilla scraps were collected, that's when mom or grandma would make tortilla soup. Okay. Okay. I have seen this cooked and plated in many different sort of styles, depending on where you go. There's different toppings that go on there. My grandma always makes hers with chipotles. Okay? And so how it goes is that they normally cut this into thin strips, like I did for you, but then they get fried, deep fried. So a whole bunch of oil in a pan, and then you fry your little crispy tortillas. Okay. Then they kind of go in the soup. All right, so we're doing the SOS free version of that. All right. So I see that my soup here is coming to a simmer. I don't know if you guys can smell. Oh yes. All right. The only addition that I'm going to add here, and this is something that some of you might not be familiar with, is this right here. So this is epazote. This is a herb that is commonly used in Latin cuisine. I have not seen this be used anywhere else in any type of part of the world, any type of ethnic cuisine. So you would not find this at a Whole Foods or Kroger's or Safeway. You'd have to go to a Latin market in order to get them.
What's it called again?
Epazote, E-P-A-Z-O-T-E. Okay. And it's this sort of very... I'll pass one around if you guys want it. Now, it's a sort of smoky, sort of deep herbal kind of thing. Nothing like anything else. The best I could come up with is a sort of combination between a cilantro and basil, sort of cooked down type of thing. So I would add that to the soup. Okay.
So Latin grocery around here?
Oh yeah, in California there's Latin markets everywhere.
I'd like to know.
All right, I'm gonna turn this down.
You can take that out or you just leave it in?
No, I just leave it in.
Okay.
Okay. So one of the ways in which this is done, my grandma would make the fry the little chips. Okay, and then she would put them in the pot and there's still some oil left in there, quite a bit, then everything that's blended goes into that hot pot of oil and the little tortilla chips. So in some households, the tortilla soup is sort of like a refried soup.
It's amazing how different that smell is with just the episode.
Just the episode,
It
right.
changed a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And so in some households, the tortilla chips go in at the beginning. Okay. The idea behind frying the tortilla chips is to dry them up, evaporate the moisture out of them, so that when they go into the soup, they don't dissolve. Okay, that's the idea behind it. Because you can certainly take tortillas, cut them in strips, and throw them in the soup right away. But what happens is, because they haven't been dried out, they start soaking in too much moisture and they start to break apart. Okay, so that is the reason why you would dry the little, crisp up the little tortilla strips. Okay. Okay. So now I'm adding the tortilla chips. I'm gonna let that come to a simmer, and you guys will smell yet a different layer. Okay. So, in some parts of the country, I remember once I was on vacation in Cabo, and we got some tortilla soup somewhere, and they brought out the biggest bowl I had ever seen. It was like a mixing bowl, that kind of a thing. Some places, you know, they give you a little kind of thing, so it's different. So, hush. All right. So in some places, this is kind of what you get. So this is kind of more of a my grandma style. The little chips sort of floating in there. All right, and maybe we'll add a little sprig of cilantro there. Okay. In some places, however, they blend it. And because you have the tortillas in there, it acts as a great thickener. Okay. So, now if the epazote went in this batch, you know, you get that really nice big punch. Epazote is kind of like rosemary in the sense that as a fresh herb, it will withstand heat for a prolonged period of time, just like rosemary. Just about every other herb, you just want to add it sort of at the very end because they disappear as you cook them down. All right. You'll notice that the color changed. It went from this really nice bright red to this sort of palish orange. A lot of that has to do with the fact that I just incorporated a lot of air from this powerful sort of machine. So if I put it back in the pot, just so that it comes to a simmer and all those air pockets sort of get pushed out, I will recover some of the color. And so, now this is more of a thick soup, okay? For some people that does not work, but because it's just this sort of, there's no texture in there. It's just this continuous sort of thickened soup. But, lucky for you, I saved some of this. So I'm gonna take, oh, cool trick with the avocados. Some of you might not know this. So you ever go to the store and buy an avocado and then you take it home and it's brown inside and you're like, damn it, that was $4 wasted. Sometimes it's $5 wasted. Okay, so take your avocado, and at the store, you know, the big mounds, take your fingers and push the knob off, the little stem part, okay? And then look inside. If it's really nice and green in there, it's gonna be nice and green throughout, okay? Now, if you have a hard time pushing that out, okay, the avocado is not ripe enough. It will be green, but it's not ripe enough, okay? If it comes off really easy, you know, it's just like barely touching it falls off, it's likely the avocado is quite ripe and it will have some brown in it. But this will give you a peek inside before you buy it. So see? So there you go. You just got your money's worth. All right. Enough. So I did get some of my color back. Okay. Now, for those who really want some texture in there, because like, that's, you know, now you can add some crunchies, okay? Where over here, there is some texture on there from the tortillas, but they're soft, okay? So just different style. Lusher. Finish off with a little avocado here around the soup. Okay. In some parts, you know, some restaurants, you know, they add big chunks of cheese and a bunch of sour cream in there, which is completely unnecessary. And let me go. A few little things of cilantro. And there you go. You know, very simple. Ta-da! So we can go very simple from, you know, salsa and whatever texture you want, really chunky. You know, you don't even have to blend it, maybe, to really nice and smooth. The heat level could be whatever you want, depending on the type of chilies and the amount of chilies you use, okay? That gets turned into a tortilla soup very easily, okay? And then that could go whichever sort of plating style that you like, all right? Simple, you know, I ended up using about 5-ish ingredients to do this for you, okay? It's not complicated. Yes?
So what about fresh peppers instead of chilies?
You can, yeah, absolutely.
It doesn't matter, there's
It doesn't matter.
no wrong.
Yeah, no wrong, no, there's, again, you know, with salsa, it just sort of, anything goes.
Yeah.
I brought the dried chilies to let you know that from fresh to dry, they changed names, okay? Because I think it's sort of cool information. Yes?
How long does it keep in the fridge, the salsa?
The salsa probably a week. It will start losing color and flavor. It will definitely lose heat as it sits there. But it's still definitely edible. Yeah.
About how much veggie broth would you say that you used? Like how much liquid would we add to the salsa?
Twice of what I use here. So this is, where's my measurements? A couple cups, 2 cups, yeah. Give or take. And that was enough to make probably 3 bowls worth of soup, you know, one, you know, between the amount of salsa in there and then the broth. Okay. These I would recommend you get in habit of using. Again, they're not hot, but there's a lot of flavor in here. Guajillos are Guajillo.
And those are not anchos.
Those are not
Ancho and
anchos.
poblano, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anchos are darker, more towards a black color.
Are they hotter?
No,
So these are more flavorful.
these
Where
are-
these in their origin?
these are very mild. Probably the mildest of the dried chilies you're gonna find.
Once you open the dry ones, the bags, how long do those last? Because I'll get ambitious and I'll do it and then I'll think, oh, I still have these, but like how long will they last in your pantry?
I wouldn't keep them more than like 6 months. And if you're gonna have them, keep them tight, you know, in an airtight sort of container, because they will start losing their flavor if they're just sort of sitting out.
Could you freeze them?
You wouldn't want to freeze them because they're dried. There's no advantage to freezing them. Matter of fact, there would be a disadvantage because they start soaking in moisture. Yeah.
Well, what if you cook them down with some kind of base to add into a dish? Because I might have peppers around there 5 years old when I freeze them. You could take them from the bag and start the dish and then freeze it.
You could use that. So have a base. absolutely. And then maybe you cook a batch of that and freeze it in ice cube trays. Okay, and then you pop one ice cube tray of your tortilla soup base kind of a thing.
What about, is that an enchilada base when you just put hot water into the peppers and then you're blending that?
Yeah, that's more of an enchilada base.
Yeah.
You want it more liquidy,
Yeah.
okay? And it's the sort of same thing. The tortillas get dried out, okay? For an enchilada, traditional enchilada, the whole tortillas are deep fried. And it's the same concept as the tortilla soup. They get dried out so that when they soak into the salsa, they don't fall apart, okay? So that's why for an enchilada, you want sort of soupier,
Yeah.
more liquid, because the tortillas are going to absorb quite a bit. Yeah.
How would you get like a fire roasted flavor into your salsa?
Ideally, if you have a gas burner, okay, you toast your chilies or even your tomatoes right on there, on the grill. At worst, if you have a pan, okay, get it really nice and hot, and then put the chilies on there. This is sort of common too in Latin families. They'll have just a flat sort of griddle kind of pan. They'll get it super hot, and then they'll just set the chilies right on top, and then they'll walk away. You know, and then you'll start smelling it in the entire house. And then, you know, a while later, they'll flip them over. Okay, so they get that nice char kind of a thing in there. Yeah. I hope you guys all enjoy that. Thank you for watching. This was Chef Bravo for Bravo Plant-Based Channel and BravoPV.com. All right, thank you.
Thank you.